Free knocks on the cabin door. Loud knocks. Desperate knocks. Victor squinted through the darks of the cabin. It was early morning and the sun barely creasing over the mountaintops, casting great orange waves across the sky. The door squeaked on its hinges as it opened. Cold air rushed into the cabin, and Victor shivered as all of a sudden chill gripped onto his body. The snow was ravaging on the ground, coming down with thick clumps. A pale and gaunt man with high cheekbones stared anxiously from a few feet away, clutching at the body of a larger man and unconscious on the ground. Fear was stained in his eyes, palpable fear. "I'm Joseph. My friend Mark. He's injured." The man's tone wavered as he spoke, crying like a child. "Please, it won't last much longer. We need help." Victor raised his hand to his chin. There was a bloody trail stained with snow leading up to the cabin. Winding his way across the ground like a snake, the wind was menacing and it's tensively ramming against the cabin as if it were trying to blow it off the mountain. "You come from the village?" Victor responded, his head tilted upwards with uncertainty. "We're tourists. Our camp is a while away, and the village is at east. We've been traveling on foot. Me and Mark, we were hiking, and there was..." "Enough," Victor spoke, sticking his hand out suddenly. "Come inside. I'll help you with your friend." Slumping Mark's body over his shoulder, Victor stepped back inside the cabin. Joseph rushed inside, pausing near the raging fireplace and rubbing his hands together. He sighed deeply. Glancing out the window with a worried glare, a small group of children were gathered below the mountain overlooked near the cabin. Mark's lips were blush pink, and his whole body was cold and heatless. Victor listened closely for any sign of a heartbeat, but heard nothing. "Neck injury. Looks quite serious. You're lucky you got me now. A few more minutes out there and he'd be gone," Victor lied. Mark had been dead for minutes now. Joseph turned suddenly, raising an eyebrow. Victor was poring through a blocky manual type books of sorts, having laid Mark on a large table in the center of the room. "Is it true? What are they say?" "What? Who says?" "The villagers, down by the river below. They told us about you, a healer up in the mountains. We thought it was a superstition, and it was just a local legend." "The villagers say a lot of things. Tales of ghosts and demons and pixies and such. Easy to imagine why. All that time spent in the middle of nowhere. Not much to do or say. No wonder there's so many stories. They said that you're a trickster. You know, a con man. They said that you couldn't be trusted." Joseph spoke. "A bunch of ungrateful bastards is what they are. Always wandering about, getting injured, dragging themselves into the cabin. Pathetic little tears in their eyes. Then walking out again without a word of thanks if I refuse to help them. They threaten me with violence. They aren't so agreeable with tourists either, as I am sure you would have experienced. That's how Mark was injured. They turned on us, acted friendly at first, and then ambushed us as we were leaving and robbed us. One of the littler shits wedged a pickaxe into Mark's neck." Victor laughed coldly. "Figures." As fist-sized rocks smashed through the window, scattering glass on the cabin floor, Joseph jumped out of the way while Victor scowled and rushed to the new opening. Quiet cheers echoed upwards towards the overlook. A small group of village children were jumping with joy from down below, pebbles clutched in their hands, parents cheering them on. "You couldn't have picked a worse place to be touring, my friend. These villagers on the blight of the land. Unlike little rats they are. For all the years I've spent up here, I've never seen a more pitiful bunch of ingrates across Europe. They take and they never give back. Pure scum." Joseph leaned against the cabin wall tentatively, unsure of how to react. "So, is it true or not? Can you really heal the people like they say?" Victor sat down on his manual on the large bookshelf, cracking a sly grin. There was an all-of-a-sudden flash of light as he began chanting some strange dialect that Joseph could not understand. These words echoed through the room as if it were a cave. What? The final flash shot across the walls, and Joseph clamped his eyes shut. When he opened them again, he stood outside the cabin, Mark and Victor by his side. You're welcome, Victor spoke, as small wisps of snowfall landed on his face. Mark's gonna be fine. He's just a little dazed right now. Side effect from the process. Give it a few minutes. He'll be perfectly fine. Mark mumbled quietly in confusion, blinking and scratching his head. Thank you so much, Joseph spoke. Tears of happiness welled up in his eyes. I could offer you money, but the villagers... Do not worry about that, my friend. Your kindness is payment enough. Oh, and Joseph... Victor leaned closer, and his voice lowering a whisper. Your friend was dead. Try and take better care of him next time. My God, I had no idea. At least it was all sorted now, I suppose, Joseph replied, shaken at Victor's words. But if I can ask just one last favor, what would that be? Don't let the villagers get away with whatever they did. I don't know what some sort of crazy powers you have, but you must teach them a lesson. Please. Victor bit his lip, seemingly contemplating on the offer. I think I know something that would do the trick. Joseph nodded, and with a hopeful smile, the pair set off down the snow-cast mountain. Descending to the peaks was not an easy task, and Joseph struggled to find his footing as he and Mark slid downwards. Mark pushed further down towards the bottom, while Joseph stopped and peeking at what he had caught his eye below in the village. Go on ahead, Mark. I'll be there in a few minutes. Mark gave a shaky thumbs up and skidded to the bottom of the slope, continuing across the mountain while Joseph approached the village apprehensively. It was an utter carnage. People were dashing madly along the streets, clutching their throats as if they tripped over, and another in a frantic daze. One by one, their panicked movements began to slow into a crawl, right up until they collapsed in the snow, a pool of blood forming around their bodies. Mortified, Joseph ran to the nearest villager, an elderly man shaking violently on the ground. Can't breathe, he spoke gruffly, as the very syllable was causing him great pain. What's wrong? What do you need? Joseph tried to ask the man, trying to hold his body steady. Water. I need water. The man's words were lost as a sea of coughs, and Joseph watched in horror as his milky eyes glassed over, and his arms flailing limply at his side. The skin on his man's neck was peeling away on its own layer by layer. Within a moment, the wound had formed completely, scratching from the man's chin to his collarbone. It was Mark's exact gash, as if it were been copied and pasted onto a man's neck. Yellowish pus leaked from the opening, staining the man's clothes. Joseph retched, barely managing to contain the rising vomit in his throat. Everywhere he looked, the gashes bloomed on the people's necks like a virus, always the same size and shape as Mark's. Small children wheezed and choked by their own parents' corpses, life draining from their bodies. Screaming mothers held dead babies in their arms, blood trickling down to their breast. Even when the animals were suffering, dogs moaned and whimpered from the houses, and the birds flew skywards in fear, only to plummet back down to the ground, half dead in the air. It was a circus of death, and Joseph was the audience. There was nothing he could do. The last remaining villager stumbled drearily across the ocean of the dead. The wind whistled eerily along the alleys as he hacked up gobs of blood and mucus. Depressingly aware of his fate, with his clenched fist, he let out a ragged yell, collapsing forwards onto another body. Snowfall was already burying the corpses, covering their pale faces. Joseph sank to his knees, unable to speak or even move. Weeping, he questioned himself if he saw was even real. But what confirmed it was Victor standing proudly on the mountain with the overlook, that smug smile still plastered across his face in the sunlight. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.